Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Craft Lake City Celebration of the Hand Lunch and Learn for the Soul of the West by Seth Stern. So it's going to be a virtual discussion, and yeah, we can't wait to get started. Thank you all so much for being here. All right, so just some quick notes, real quick. Please mute your microphone so that all attendees can hear the presentation. Captions can be turned on at the bottom of the screen using the live transcript button. And if you have any questions, please just type them in the chat. We're going to have a Q&A section at the end that we can go over all of them. And then at the end, we'll also paste a link to a survey about the event. We'd love your feedback. It always helps us to improve. All right, real quick about us. Our mission is to educate, promote, and inspire local artisans while elevating the creative culture of the Utah arts community through science, technology, and art. A couple of our upcoming events, we have the Craft Lake City DIY Festival happening August 7th, 8th, and 9th this summer at the Utah State Fair Park. And then we also have our 8th annual Craft Lake City Holiday Market in Ogden, Utah, December 4th and 5th. And then some of our other programming real quick. Of course, we have Celebrations of the Hand and Local Voices. They're rotating our exhibits in 14 metal frames in downtown Salt Lake City, featuring all local artists. They're open 24/7. They're totally free to view. And then we have our Youth Entrepreneur Program, empowering the next generation of Utah makers with hands-on entrepreneurial experience and mentorship. That's a really fun one. And then we do year-round DIY workshops. So they're accessibly priced, hosted by talented local makers in a wide variety of subjects. We're open to ideas. So if you ever have any leads for a workshop that you'd like to see, you can let us know at info@craftlakecity.com. All right, so real quick about the exhibition. Craft Lake City curates this rotating art exhibition in 14 metal frames adjacent to sidewalks in downtown Salt Lake City. They're located on the north and south sides of Broadway, so 300 South between 200 West and 200 East. And again, they're open to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're always free of charge. All right, so meet today's speakers. I'm Clara. I'm the Programs Associate at Craft Lake City. And then we have our Executive Director, Angela H. Brown. And then, of course, we have the artist, the photographer, the cowboy photographer, Seth Stern. All right, so I'm going to turn the time over to Angela real quick.
Lara, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for being here today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your Friday to join Seth and I as we talk about Seth's new exhibition with us here in our Craft Lake City metal frames that align downtown Salt Lake City. So I want to talk a little bit about Seth and how I came to know Seth through social. And I started following Seth about a year ago. And I really, as a photographer myself, was just connected to his work right away. And I instantly felt this connection to Seth as well, that I just somehow knew that he and I would work together. And I wasn't exactly sure how, but I just, you know how you have that feeling sometimes where you just connect with someone or you know that you're going to be working with them. And so a couple months went by and I still kept feeling like this prompting, like this feeling like I needed to reach out to Seth and approach him about a partnership. And I wasn't quite sure what it was. We had kind of already had some other partnerships worked out for these metal frames. And we were really, really busy doing a lot of other work with the Craft Lake City organization. But again, I just kept feeling this feeling of like, reach out to Seth, reach out to Seth. And so one day I brought his work to the team and I said, hey, I want to reach out to this cowboy photographer, Seth Stern. And I showed up a few examples and the team just right away also connected with the work and encouraged me to message Seth. So I did. And it was great because right away he responded back, which I was so grateful for, because if you follow Seth on Instagram, you know he gets a lot of messages. And so right away we kind of set up an email exchange and I pitched him on the project and he was in 100%. And we had to work on a very accelerated short timeline in order to make this exhibition work. And Seth was down for it. So thank you so much, Seth. Again, it's such a privilege to be here today with you. And I am just very excited for people to hear your story. It's just really important to me that your work is seen, especially in downtown Salt Lake City, by the people and residents that live here. And thank you for working with us in order to make that partnership happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Seth and let him talk for a little bit about his artwork, about what he's showing down here on the downtown streets of Salt Lake City for the next 2 months. And it's free, as Clara mentioned, open to the public 24/7. And then after Seth talks, we're going to go ahead and do a Q&A. So put your questions in the chat, or you can save them for after, and we will go over them with Seth. So Seth, tell us a little bit about your exhibition and about your work.
Angela, thank you so much. It's truly such an honor and a privilege to be in a position where I can share my story, as well as my art. Angela has been such a pleasure to work with, very patient with my busy schedule, and just such a championing my story and my artwork in a way that I'm just very deeply grateful for the opportunity. Thanks everyone for being here, sacrificing your time, making the choice to just come and just participate in this online discussion. For those of you that don't know, my name is Seth. I am a high school dropout. I'm a failed filmmaker. I grew up in Los Angeles, and the reason I start by sharing the sort of mess that my life was is because I have a lot of followers on Instagram, people can wrongly assume that my life is perfect. Um, and so I really and that's not good. You know, it's not it doesn't help us to relate to one another. And so I really stand on my story that, you know, my life was truly when I set out on this creative journey to become a Western photographer, it wasn't from a place of despair where I became disillusioned with the creative industry. I wasn't able to make ends meet. I wasn't able to pay my bills. And I was working really hard. Like I wasn't sitting on my butt just waiting for an opportunity to come. I was working 6 or 7 days a week trying to get some momentum, and it seemed like I was just always in this quicksand. And so I've a lot of people wonder how I started as a Western photographer, what drew me towards that. And the truth is that I've always been a fan of country music. Since I was a child, I used to watch the Johnny Cash TV show reruns and listen to Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson and the Highwaymen and Marty Robbins. And kind of fell out of it until more recent years. Something reignited that passion for country music. I started listening to Marty Robbins and the Highwaymen again, and they have these vast soundscapes in their music. And I was living in this dense metropolitan area, feeling very isolated and stuck in traffic. And just everywhere I looked was just concrete. And I crave so deeply on a soul level for that sense of freedom that I heard in that music. So something in me said I'm gonna go and photograph rodeos. I'd never even been to a rodeo, and so that started. I really couldn't make ends meet, and so I lived in my car and I traveled around the country photographing cowboys. And when I first told people about this idea, there was this look of concern and bewilderment, and people often made jokes, which I don't blame them for because it's truly an irrational choice. It wasn't something that I made logically. It was something that a choice that I made emotionally and spiritually. So that started that journey. I didn't know anybody, didn't have any connections. And I just chased after this spiritual longing for a greater sense of purpose and this creative longing for more inspiration. And through the process, social media just blew up. It was kind of a shock to the system. Went from being this guy that lives in his car to over 300,000 followers across social media. And I had the great privilege now of being the first contemporary photographer inducted into the National Cowboy Museum. Next Friday will be the official unveiling of my artwork in the National Cowboy Museum, part of a permanent exhibition. Which if you told me that when I was living in my car, you know, I probably would have said I could see it happening. Um, I had this sheer dogged determination. I don't know why, because I had no evidence to show for it, but I knew that I was doing something that was written for me. It's the only way that I can really describe it. So I want to get into the artwork. I don't want to cry on this uh, on this recording for too long. So we can go to our first um, slide here. I want to talk specifically about this piece and what it crying is cool, Angela says in the chat. And it's true. I mean, hopefully, what I hope that comes across is that this means a lot to me. This is more than a job. So what it takes to be a photographer, I think, is a deep sensitivity to people, to moments. And I want to get into some of the pieces. I want to get into the thinking process behind this, the feelings that I'm experiencing as I'm taking this. And I want to talk about feelings both like emotionally and my senses, what I'm hearing, um, what I'm seeing. So with this photo, I'm standing inside of an old shed. It's a probably from the early 1900s. It's We are just finishing up a cattle. We're tagging calves. So the cowboys bring in all the cattle. They separate the babies from the moms, and then they will rope the babies in order to tie them down so that they can put a tag on their ear. It's not a painful process by any means, and it's necessary in order to attend to the medical needs of the calves, keep track of them, and keep them safe over the course of their life. So we're done with that. People are leaving. I'm kind of exploring, looking around for ways to. I'm looking for photos. I'm looking to capture the moment. And this gentleman here on the horse is practicing some horsemanship with this horse that he's working on, including just doing circles and things of that nature. And I am looking for ways to photograph it in a way that creates some layers. As you can see, there's a lot of layers in this. We have the plateau in the background. We have the man on the horse, and we also have this this family here in the foreground, or sorry, in the this as the subject, and then in the foreground we have the doorway. So I'm standing in this doorway, and the family hasn't passed yet. I'm kind of still searching for a photo, but I hear footsteps. At first, I was going to take a picture of the man, but I hear these footsteps and I hear children's voices. And I realize the family is about to walk in front of the doorway. And so I stop what I'm doing and just wait. There's a certain level of preparedness that is necessary to capture a moment like this. And so I wait, I practice presence, and I'm listening, I'm hearing their voices and their footsteps, and they walk in front of the doorway, and I am there. I'm ready. I'm anticipating they're going to walk, and I'm going to photograph them exactly where they're standing. And so I leave space in the frame for them to occupy that frame, as well as I carefully compose the cowboy on the horse in a position where he is still a part of the composition. I also prefer to usually not let the subjects go over the horizon line. So I'm actually standing up on a piece of, I guess, like a deteriorating concrete. And yeah, so we have this moment. I knew as soon as we captured it that it'd be really special. Um, I knew that I just there's a feeling that you have when this sort of thing happens, that this excitement, this sort of amazement, because I don't know really what um is going to happen. When it comes to being an artist, it's very much a collaboration with the spirit. It's very much a collaboration with the present moment. I don't control these variables. I'm just there waiting to imprint them on film or a digital medium. This one is on digital. Uh, I'm trying to capture the moment where their faces are in it. I'm really grateful that they were looking the direction of the house or the shed that I was in, so we can see the whole family. What I also particularly love about the Western world, so many times we think about the Wild West as like cowboys and these wide open spaces and men on horseback, and we forget that there are families that are a part of this lifestyle. And just because you have a cattle branding, or you're vaccinating calves, or doing the work of cowboying. Cowboy is both a noun and a verb. When you go out to cowboy, who's going to watch the kids? You bring them with you, and as well as these children are raised up on horseback. So I'm particularly drawn to the family aspect of it. There's a really consistent theme across my body of work of the family in a Western setting. And this family too also has a adorable little puppy that they're bringing along. Like there's no babysitters. You bring them. This child in the middle on the left. While we're tagging the calves, she is making dirt angels. She's in the dirt, on her back, making dirt angels, doing the things that kids are supposed to do. Um, so it was one of my favorite photos that I've been so fortunate to capture. It really speaks to just the lifestyle that these families are living out. They don't have to. This is their passion. They have this deep sense of purpose of preserving the Western way of life, and so they really try to live this out. We can go to our next slide now. I want to talk about the next piece. So this is the same sort of family or tribe. This is taken at the Christianson's Ranch out in Emory, Utah. They are a tight-knit bunch, very well-known cowboy family in Utah. All the young men have been very successful rodeo athletes. Their father, Kirk, is also just an amazing horse trainer. And now that he has established his family, he's even seeking to go out and win some buckles, as they would say, win some trophies as a rodeo athlete himself. But this photo in particular, this was a composition. This wasn't, this is a photo that I sought to create, depicting a life that I see. So we did arrange, a lot of my photography is spur of the moment, capturing the moment, being that fly on the wall. But this is one where we composed them to create this composition. But this is not unlike something you would see at any rodeo. This isn't a rodeo, this is a practice. So they have an arena on their property where they practice saddle bronc riding, which is a rodeo event where they get on top of a bronc, a horse that is bred to buck, as they would say, and they just practice. There's no audience, there's no judges, but it's an opportunity for them as athletes to really hone in their skills. But the reality of this world is there are dangers, there is a threat of injury, there's threat of death. Anything can happen. So before they step foot into the arena, before they step on, they take their seat in that saddle, they do pray. And so, in addition to photographing the family life, I wanted to photograph the faith aspect of that surrender and that trust, um, because there's so many variables that are outside of their control. So, this is a moment that particularly moving for me, because it's always so behind the shoots, the world that the cowboy world, the rodeo world that the audience doesn't get to see is behind the shoots. They do take off their hat, they bend their knee, and they pray. Um, what I particularly love about this composition is the only creature that is looking into the camera is actually the horse in the background. Um, as a photographer, sometimes I like to play with breaking the fourth wall, where you have somebody or something looking in to your soul as the audience member, as the viewer. Um, and I think it's particularly um, it's funny that the one thing that is looking into the camera in this fourth wall breaking moment is the horse, but everyone else is kind of, they are in prayer, they're in the moment. So I also love shooting something like this on a long lens, which gives this sense of voyeurism to the viewer, of you are from a distance noticing this event unfolding, which is how I feel as a photographer, as a spectator. Is I'm when it comes to a rodeo, like I'm looking around and I'm seeing life unfold. I'm seeing these stories unfold. I'm seeing these people live authentically in the moment. And I have the opportunity then to try to capture that and tell that story and share it through photography. So this is a really special photograph to me, one of my favorites. And there is a very real reason why they pray, and that is because of the danger of this lifestyle. So we can go now to the next slide. This is moments later. I kind of want to let this one sit for a second. I have never heard a man scream the way this young man screamed. He got up on, after our prayer, he got up on to one of the horses. And these horses are, like I said, they're bred to buck. They're called broncs. This is a part of an event called a saddle bronc. So they actually use a saddle versus the bareback bronc riding event that is widely known in the rodeo world. Uh, this young man is 17 years old. He has fallen off the horse. He took a bad wreck, and in a moment like this, I think there's a impulse to go, should I take a photo of this? And what I have realized through years of doing this now, that it is my responsibility to depict the entire reality of the Western way of life, whether that is rodeo or cowboying. And this is a reality. And in this moment, a documentary crew is following me around on this photo shoot. And so I'm with this British photographer, and I'm talking to, he's saying, Seth, is it okay to film this? And I go, yeah, of course, come on. Like, we're running through the arena. And this isn't something that we delight in seeing. Like, we're not happy to see this young man hurt, and we don't know the reality of his injury, whether he's broken his back, whether he has broken his legs. So behind the camera, and in all honesty, I have tears, in my eyes. But it's important to put my body in the position to capture this moment and to tell this story. And so um, he was okay. I'm sure you guys are wondering. He was okay. I should have started with that. He lived. He walked out of the arena on crutches, but he did walk out. He landed on his sciatic nerve. And so he had no broken bones, but he had a very severe bruise. Um, what I particularly love about this image is it kind of alludes to the sort of Monument Valley landscape photography that you may see about the American West, where we have these people almost standing in position that would serve, kind of alludes to that Monument Valley um, landscapes, as well as the emotion of the young man that he is in excruciating pain, and the all the attention is on him. Everyone is looking down in concern. We have one of our friends here attending to his medical needs. They find once he is calmed down, they're cracking jokes, which is it's just exactly what you can expect when you spend time with cowboys. Um, so the joke that they make shortly after is one of the guys had just recently broke his foot and his foot is healed. He said, well, I just got off the crutches. They're in the house. We can just bring them out for you. So they go and ran and grab the crutches and just hand them off to him. But the reality is these men are very tough. These women are very tough. These people are living lives of a ruggedness that I could never imagine for myself. Um, and they're just seem to always be hurt. They always seem to be hurt, but they don't ever really let that stop them from continuing on with this way of life. Um, so we can go down to the next slide. And this story kind of is tied together with this image. This is the same young man that was on the ground screaming in pain. I will never get that sound out of my head. But he's on crutches. He's he's got this gaze looking up, looking towards the future, and he's actually telling me how he wants to come back next weekend and get back to practice. I'm going, man. You gotta, I just slow down. But there's nothing that I could say to talk him out of something like that. 17 years old, still in high school, still chasing after this dream, this moment of glory when he could win the rodeo and he could finish a ride. When it comes to finishing a ride, that means staying on the horse for 8 seconds. And when you're on there, that's a lifetime. That's an eternity to stay on something that wants nothing more than to kick you off. These men are just, they are built different. I always say that they're built tough and they're triple stitched to the seams. They are truly enduring a lifestyle that demands a ruggedness which few people will ever experience. And they do it not for money, not for anything, simply than the desire to preserve this tradition. So he gets on the crutches. He's talking. The guys are encouraging him. He's already like critiquing his performance. He's already talking about the way that he wished he could do things differently. One of the funny things about this moment is we did eventually pause and stop taking photos to allow him to regain his composure. The whole time this event is unfolding, we're like, the light is just so beautiful. It's exactly the light that any photographer would dream of having. This is taken in the fall, so just before the winter. So we have that beautiful low angle sun coming in, and I even gave him the choice at this moment. Said, "Hey, man, if you don't want me to publish these photos, they'll never see the light of day. Like I would never take an action with the intent to embarrass you in this moment." And he said he wanted these to be out there and it would be okay because this is this is the life. This is the reality of the life that they live. I particularly love this image because we have that big solar flare in the on the left hand side of the frame. It's also giving him this beautiful edge light. So around his hat, around his chin, you see that brighter area, as well as around his shoulder. Really helps to separate him from the backdrop. Um, so really an ideal lighting situation. I love to position the sun behind my subjects. I love his gaze, his emotion, because he's truly already dreaming about the future when he could come back and try again, and maybe next time he'll get it. As well as the reality of the story told in his crutches, that he's hurt, he's experienced failure, and the triumph that he is displaying in this posture, that he in his gaze, that he is going to try again. It's beyond inspiring. It's truly the determination is beyond my own comprehension, and it moments like these happen every rodeo. The moments like these happen at every rodeo. Um, they don't always happen at brandings. Ideally, you don't have someone fall off and get hurt. Ideally, you have a regular work day without injury. But this is sort of the reality that they live in. And I've as soon as I got a taste of that inspiration, it sparked in me this like just I couldn't get enough. Being around people that are living this out, living out this triumph, this determination, this ruggedness, this humility. There's few things like it, I'll say, and I can't get enough. And it's what's led me to devote my life to photographing individuals just like this. And with that, I think that concludes the photography portion of this. I think we'll open it up to Q&A.
Awesome. And just a quick reminder before we go to the Q&A, where you can actually view Seth's work in person in downtown Salt Lake City. We've got this map here, and it's on the 3rd South Corridor. So between West Temple and 2nd West is where a large portion of them are. And they also do continue from West Temple through Main Street. So if you're in Utah, make it down to downtown Salt Lake City between now and June 30th, and you can see this work. And you know, Seth, have you ever seen your work this large before? Because they are on big substrates that are 4 feet by 8 feet.
This is actually the first time I've seen my work this large. Yeah, 8 feet wide, 4 feet tall. Angela was there when I first laid my eyes on them, and it was definitely a moment of pause, and I just soaked it all in.
Well, and what I love about seeing this body of work that large is because it becomes lifelike, and of course in any size it's very emotive and really creates an impact, but seeing it that big, you can't help but stop and stare at it. And just in the time that we were there, several people were looking at the work. But since then, Seth, I know you've been kind of back. Have you had a chance to see how the public engaged with your work?
Um, I do like to go back and be like a fly on the wall and watch people interact with it. I mean, you have every type of person from, you know, people that work in the financial industry to families to people that are living through homelessness, engaging with the work. I saw a woman stand and read my testimony, which is printed on each frame for 5 minutes, and I was stunned. Honestly, it's such an honor to be able to share my story, to glorify God through the work that I get to do, and use this platform to try and help one person out there.
And what is it that you think your work, how do you think your work can help that one person out there?
You know, I don't know. Honestly, I think there's A.W. Tozer talks about how artists and poets, um, in his opinion, are haunted by the voice of God. This inner urge to go and create and strive after something that we don't really have a clear vision as to why. But I can't stop. Like it's something that if I were to stop, it would eat away at me. It's this sort of burning passion to go and create and tell the story of the human life. I have more concretely tried to use it as a platform to help someone who is lost by sharing my testimony and of how Christ saved my life. Um, but sometimes, I mean, the reality is the impact is beyond my comprehension. I just know that this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit about kind of the mentality of a cowboy. You know, a cowboy, from what I've learned from this presentation and from you, is that cowboys have this mental toughness and this determination, this triumph over failure, this endurance, and this humility. And a lot of times I see when artists create that their work is really a reflection of themselves. And Seth, I see all of these cowboy qualities in you.
Wow, thank you so much. It's truly my life is modeled after the life of Jesus. His character is the character that I desire to exemplify, and I don't do it, but little by little, he does. Um, yeah, to speak to the character of cowboys, they don't like their picture taken usually. It takes time they don't want to be the center of attention. They don't want the glory and the acclaim. There are varying levels of degrees. Sometimes the rodeo athletes, the bull riders, the bronc riders, they do kind of want their rock star moment. Um, but there is an air of extreme humility, that it's about what you do and who you are, not stepping into the limelight and being recognized for that.
That's cool. Well, I know that we had a couple questions submitted with people registering. Clara, would you mind reading one of those questions for Seth?
Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, so you've kind of gone into this a little bit, but it's, just the why of it all. Why is this worth documenting? Is it just, a nostalgic aesthetic or something else? So that's kind of the main question. I'd love to hear kind of how you interpret it. And yeah.
It's a great question. So the why of why I photograph cowboys, the the reality is that cowboys are alive and living today. There's something that we don't, they are something that maybe we don't see. There's a saying that goes, cowboys aren't dying off. You just can't see them from the road. And the truth is there's many men and women who are working the land and stewarding the land and stewarding livestock and putting food on our tables, um, that never will receive the recognition. They live a life of extreme ruggedness, extreme hard work, extreme conditions, rain, snow, sleet, extreme heat. Um, it's like a battle. They work they work endless hours. There's numerous cowboys who don't take days off. It's really quite a luxury to not work a 6 or 7 day week with 16, 18-hour days. Um, the it's baffling. It's baffling the endurance that is required, the hard work that is required. And so it allowed me to sort of, as somebody who grew up in the city, begin to reconcile with life, something that I didn't really understand and maybe at times was disillusioned with. It allowed me to sort of reconcile with these traditional virtues of humility, hard work, selflessness, endurance, stick-to-itiveness, sticking to just because you're having a bad day, just because you just sometimes it's just because you've broken your arm doesn't mean that you stop working. It's a type of perseverance that is rarely seen today. And so I think there's just something so alluring about getting to know these people and sharing their story as an outsider, that I just haven't been able to stop.
Two more questions for you, Seth, and then we need to wrap up.
Hey.
I want to ask you if there was one thing that one lesson from cowboy culture that you could pass on to us that you think we city folk need to learn, what would that be?
It's not about you. Um, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about me. And my life got so much better when I realized that was the truth. The the humility is such a key to freedom. It's really in my self-assertion and in my declaring myself upon the world that I am isolated. Uh, Cowboys live a way of life that where they do depend on one another. They do depend on their neighbors and their community to come together. It takes a village. I grew up in Los Angeles, which is the, you know, self-centered capital of the world. I'll say, I'll own that. You can come for me. You can send me an email if you don't like that I've said that. But it's so much about your own identity and declaring who you are to the world. But when I was living that way, it isolated me from my community. And it was when I realized, or when I was taught, it was bestowed upon me that it's not about me, that I began to then be able to participate in community and feel a part of. And so that is why I love showcasing telling the story of the community and the family aspect, the Western way of life, because it, through witnessing what they do in the prayer photo, like that is their community. Through witnessing them come together and share time, share effort, take on the burden of each other, take on each other's burdens. I got to witness something that I wasn't living out. And when I began to live it out, I began to experience a freedom which I couldn't put words to.
Beautiful. Thank you, Seth. The last question comes from someone here today in the chat. They want to know when your book is coming out, Seth.
Oh my gosh. Every time I start to work on a book, I also realize that I'm not ready. I have so much growing up to do, so much maturing to do, that I'm allowing time to pass, and I'm allowing this body of work to be built. It's something that people have desired of my work for a while, and there's still so much sanctification that I have to allow the Lord to do in my life in order to share a perspective that I feel could just be beneficial to the world.
If I may, Seth, one's never ready. So I challenge you. I challenge you to do it, even though you're not ready. Maybe even a small chapbook, limited to release. Yeah. But when you do, the individual in the chat and myself will be the first two people in line to grab that from you. So do it when you're not ready. We're waiting for it. And thank you again for your time today, Seth. What a pleasure it has been to get to know you more through your work and through this conversation. And for those that haven't had the opportunity yet to follow you on Instagram, how do they do that?
You can find me on all platforms, Seth Michael Stern, on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Um, while I still decide to participate in those, that's where you'll find me. My website is thecowboyphotographer.com. That's thecowboyphotographer.com. There you can purchase prints. You can subscribe to my newsletter to be a part of future releases. Things like zines, books, apparel. Those are all in the works. But yeah, if also you can reach out and contact me. You can send me an email, and I'd love to hear from you and how you've connected with the work.
And one last time, give us a plug about what you're doing next week in Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh. Next week, next Friday, will be inducted into the National Cowboy Museum. They will be doing an unveiling of my artwork, Like Father, Like Son. It's a piece that will live in the National Cowboy Museum permanently. I have the great privilege and honor of being the first contemporary photographer to be inducted into what they call the Cowboy Hall of Fame. I will also be participating in a group art show in Boley at the museum called the Boley Rodeo Day. Boley is the longest standing black rodeo in American history. It's been going on for 123 years. And I'll be participating in a group show that same Friday. And then the following day, I will be photographing the Boley Rodeo, the 123rd annual rodeo in Boley, Oklahoma on that Saturday.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And then everyone, do make sure to check out Seth's work in downtown Salt Lake City through June 30th on Broadway and between 2nd West and Main Street. Thank you again. Until the
Thanks so
next time.
much.
Thank you, Seth.